Okay guys, and welcome back. Today I'm starting part one of a two-part video series covering restoration or removal and restoration of the steering wheel. Now before we get started, as always, a reminder that I'm not a professional mechanic. I cannot give you advice, and whatever I tell you might be absolute rubbish, so always seek professional advice before doing anything to your car. Do not contact me and say you told me the wrong thing and it didn't work. So I'm just going to do my best. As I say, today part one is removal of the steering wheel. In part two we'll do restoration of the steering wheel. Both of these videos may be of interest to people, especially removal of the steering wheel, because it gives access to other things as well that you may need to get to. And you can only do it by removing a steering wheel, such as certain switches or the clock spring, for instance, or removal of the steering rack. So removal's fairly easy. As always, if you know how it's done, especially in advance, it can make the job go much quicker. Now the steering wheels themselves are probably the most used part of your car. No matter what you're doing in your car, you're always going to be touching the steering wheel. And unless you've bothered to look after it, and I'll be honest, not all of us do, I'm one of those people that perhaps doesn't look after the steering wheel as much as they should, then by now it's going to be looking pretty tired, possibly cracked, threadbare, or in some cases the leather has actually worn all the way through. And I'm going to tell you a little story. I'll make it as brief as I can. I was at a car show once doing some demonstrations on restorations, and a lady brought her car over to us. You may have seen this on the video that we did at the time, and she said, "My steering wheel's really sticky, what can I do about it?" And I said, "Have you tried cleaning it?" And she said, "No, not really, how do I do that?" So I said, well, let's start with the basics. We'll get a bowl of warm water and some neutral soap and a scrubbing brush. And we started cleaning this steering wheel. And the more we cleaned it, the better it looked, until it reached a point where I said, this doesn't quite look right. Are you happy for me, or are you happy to take full responsibility if I carry on with a cleaning process? And she said, oh yeah, it doesn't matter, you know, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So we carried on scrubbing, and actually there was an area of the steering wheel where the leather was completely missing. And what had happened over the years is the grease and grime from their hands had actually built up inside this big hole and filled it out. It had literally packed out with the grease and grime from the hands to look like a steering wheel. And as we washed it away, most of the leather was gone, and she's going to need to get it recovered. I'm not going to be covering the recovering of the steering wheel. That's a very specialized job, and I always send them away for that. What we're going to be looking at is the cleaning and minor repairs, cracks, small splits, that sort of thing, and then respraying them with the original leather paint to make them look like brand new steering wheels again, or at least that's the hope. So removal of the steering wheel, it's the same for left and right hand drive cars. Today's video we're going to be doing on a left hand drive Stealth, a Dodge Stealth, which is the same basic car. Regardless of the steering wheel type that you have, whether it's got buttons or not, it makes no difference. And this steering wheel here, I don't know if you're able to pick up on the camera if you come in close enough, it's all cracked and split all the way round where they've misused it. It's lost its colour, its luster, it's gone very firm, it's lost its suppleness. So this is the actual one we're going to be restoring, so you get an idea of just how good you can make them look if you're prepared to spend a little bit of time. Even though this one's already off another car and I'm going to be doing the video on this one, the removal process will be done on a completely different steering wheel which is still on the car. So I'm just going to put these to one side. We won't even bother cutting the video for this. And a quick look at what tools are likely to be needed. And of course this can vary at any time. Some of the things you will definitely need: in the 1/4 inch socket range, you're going to need 10mm socket, a 5 5 to 8 centimeter extension bar, and a ratchet or wrench handle. Some other tools that may come in handy: Phillips screwdriver. You don't want anything too long. Then you need some method of marking certain points on the steering wheel. So you could use a center punch, a knife scraper mark, or you could use a marker pen. Then you're going to need a 17mm 1/2" wrench with a short extension bar and the wrench handle. You may need a hammer, and you need a method to pull the steering wheel off. Now, if it's never ever been off from the factory, chances are that's going to be really tough to get off, and you're going to need some sort of steering wheel removal tool. There are a number of them on the market, but the reason I haven't chosen a specific steering wheel removal tool is quite often they're unique to a particular type of steering wheel, or even if it's a universal one, how often are you likely to take that steering wheel off in its lifetime? Chances are you'll do it just once, and we'll all be long gone by the time it next needs restoration. And maybe if you've spent a lot of time on restoring it, you won't mind looking after it in future, and therefore it'll never need to come off again in the next person's lifetime. So rather than buy a specific tool, I've chosen to use a standard puller. This will be used on lots of other jobs on the car over the years. So it's not a tool that's a single use and then sits in the cupboard forever. It can be used for this job and many other jobs. So that's what I'm going to use. This is a 150mm puller, by the way. So that should be all the tools we need, but that may vary. I don't always plan these videos in advance, and I work from memory for one that I've done years ago. So we'll cut here, we'll go over to the car, and we'll start the job. Now, a couple of safety points, could be safety points, depends on your view on safety. I'm afraid I'm not very safety conscious, but just as a tip, I'm sure any professional would recommend that you disconnect the battery before you start this job, because if nothing else, you've got the airbag. Now, I've heard a lot of scary stories about this, but I don't know if this is one story that someone started and everyone follows it, or what, I don't know. But there's all these rumours that if you don't disconnect the battery, the airbag could go off, or you have to leave it half hour after disconnecting the battery before you disconnect the airbag, whatever. I can only say that I've taken off maybe 40-ish steering wheels. I'm a bit lazy, I don't often disconnect the battery, and I've never had an airbag go off. That said, of course, today might be the day, and then I'll have egg on my face as well as a few black eyes and a broken nose. So yeah, maybe disconnect the battery, be safe. Just before you do that, if you start the engine and put the wheels and steering wheel to the neutral position, so your wheel should be perfectly forward facing and your steering wheel centered. That's assuming it was centered in the first place and hasn't been off at any time. That's just going to make some of the process of putting it back together a bit easier, and it won't mean that you have to go to a different workshop to have all your wheels aligned and everything again. I think that's covered the safety stuff. I have to apologise for this car. I'm afraid the person that I bought it off mistreated it over the years, abused it, modified it, adapted it, cut wires, left bits out, drilled holes, and it's presently undergoing quite a lengthy restoration process, which is going to involve welding up all the holes that were put into the bodywork where they used self-drilling screws to put holes in to hold stuff onto the bodywork. So once we start dismantling this, I've got no idea what we're going to find inside. I just hope it's complete. I have replaced a few of the missing screws and bolts. Hopefully I've got them all. So to start off, we need to remove the airbag. It's a very simple process if you know how, because generally if you try pulling it, you would wonder how that come off. But it's actually quite simple, and if we look at the back of a steering wheel, you'll see how. We have four nuts, I should say. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going to be feeling around the back for those 4 nuts. And to undo those, you're going to need your 1/4" drive with a 10mm socket on the end. set it to undo so you're not working blind, and then you reach round the back for those holes. Now if any of your steering controls are in the way, you just simply move them. So I've pushed this one down to get in there. They are slightly offset, they're not dead straight, so just feel around, you'll get onto the nut quite easily. Once it's loose, you can disconnect that, make things easier just by doing it with your hand. First one, just simple nut. Second one, put the controls up, find the hole, right there. That's 2. Three. And 4. So now you've got the airbag that's going to come out, and you've also got, depending on your steering wheel, all sorts of buttons and controls. So what you need to be careful of, when you pull this away, don't just yank it in case you're going to break any of the plugs or cables. So just gently work it forward, and you'll see there's some very short cables behind. I don't know if the camera can get into there, we're so short of space. And the first one you're going to get to is the one for your airbag, which is the one in the middle. There's 2 clips, one on each side, and if you pull those apart, then that plug should come out. It's not the easiest job, but let me assure you it will come out. Just try not stretching the cables.
Clip on the other side, not done.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult with visibility. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little bit because I'm going to use a little probe to help me lift that out. That's 1, 2. So it just pulls straight out like that. Now you'll notice there's a number of odd plugs here that don't appear to do anything. That's because the wiring loom will fit most of the steering wheels. This particular center console only has a limited number of wires. So the only other thing we've got is for the horn. Unplug that one. Now the airbag is completely free. It didn't go off. I didn't get black eyes or a broken nose. So we'll put that out the way. Now we've got one more plug to undo. This is for your cruise control switch on this particular one. A different car may have additional switches. This one, simple plug, press on the clip there, unplug it. We're now completely free of any electrical connections. Now from this point there's different methods of taking it off. What you could try doing, which I prefer not to do, is just undo the center nut and remove it. But the problem with that is you've got limited places to put your tool to pull that off, the puller. And of course if you try using a puller with these switches in the way, there's a chance you'll break the switches. So what I'm going to do is remove these 2 metal brackets and this switch, and then that gives me better access to get the puller in there without doing any damage. So for this I need a Phillips screwdriver. It's quite obvious what you need to do here. You don't really need a video. So you've got 2 screws on this side. You can't get these brackets round the wrong way, so don't worry too much about that. So that's the first one, and I'll put the 2 screws there. On this side, you need to undo, if I recall rightly, just these 2 screws here. And you can bring the switch out with the metal bracket, if I remember rightly. You don't need to undo this screw here in the middle. Did I get this right? No, I didn't. Oh my goodness. What a fool, what a fool.
I think it is all 3.
You think it's that one as well, dear?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. When did you last take one of these off? Oh, there we go. Well done. I could have sworn you didn't take that one out. So that's our switch out the way, nice and safe. So now we've got some more options, depending on which type of puller you use. There are some that have a bracket that goes across the middle there that screws into there. This will allow you to do it straight away as is. If you go for this option, quite often the hooks won't fit comfortably round the back because you've got this plastic backing. So what we're going to do is loosen off the plastic backing. 4 screws, nice and easy. And it might seem like we're doing a lot of extra work, but look at the time on the video. It's a minute, it's nothing. But it will make the final job easier for you. You're going to have to take this off anyway to do the restoration of the steering wheel. So whether you take it off now or later is irrelevant. So now we should be able to get our puller tool in there much easier, you see. Just that simple adjustment. But before we do that, we've got to take this nut off. 17mm, 1/2 inch wrench. Now, depending on if this has been off or not before, this will either be very easy or very hard to undo. So we'll get the wrench on there. Lock the steering wheel the best you can. Got it. Now, if you found you couldn't lock that tight enough by hand, you can keep on turning this and eventually the steering lock will come on and that will stop the steering wheel moving any further. Okay, now I've got a nut there. I could have sworn that there should have been a washer underneath.
It looks like there should have been as well.
I think there should have been, so it's something else missing. Now, ready to come off. Problem is, when this was originally fitted at the factory and over the years, these have gone really tightly onto the spindle, and sometimes you can't get them off easily. That's what we have the puller for. But if it's been off previously, quite often you can just rock this around and it will pull off. That one will pull off, I can tell you, but I want to demonstrate how to use the puller. So on the puller, you've got your 2 hooks. They're going to go around the side, each side of this metal plate, and then your center is going to go onto there. So we line it up the best we can, screw that down into the center. It's a little bit of a fiddly job, but it's not too much. And then once that's on there tight, you can get your wrench on there or a spanner and just do that up. Now, like I say, this one's been off before, so it's coming up really easily. I've not even had to use a spanner so far. Something just came to me, really important, probably the most important thing of this job. Take that off. I'm going to push this back down. Luckily I didn't take it off. You will see when we remove this. Yes, I should have marked it. I don't know if you can see in there, there's a lot of tiny little splines. Now you need to line those splines up again when you put the steering wheel back on. If you don't, your steering wheel will be facing one way when the car is driving a different way. So you want it to always be facing the right way. Now there's a number of ways of doing that. First of all, like I said, before you start, center your wheels, center your steering wheel. Then you can mark it in a number of different ways. There's two things you need to mark. One is this metal surround around the edge, and two is the steering column itself, this bit in here. Now this one's already been marked. You can do it in a number of ways. You can put a center punch here and one on the outside. As long as the two center punches match up, you're fine. You could, if you wish, use a sharp blade and scratch a couple of marks. Just make sure they line up. Or grab yourself a Sharpie or some other well-known brand of marker pen and put a dot. Just make sure the two dots line up. I didn't manage to get into that centerpiece. It's gone up the thread. Now I would strongly recommend that you make multiple markings, because one might be just a fraction off. So if you make multiples, chances are they won't all be wrong. Now I can see from here there's already a couple of really good scratch marks there, so those are the ones I'm going to use. They appear to be perfectly in line. So from there, we've already used the puller to loosen it, and now that'll slide off. Watch you don't catch your plugs when you come through the back. Catch your plastic, and the steering wheel is off as easily as that. Now from this point, for those of you that want to go to your clock spring, you can take this cover off. That's covered in another video. You've also got your control switches. They can be accessed easier without the steering wheel, although it can be done with it on. But I think that's all we need to cover from this point. The steering wheel's off, and it can now go for, I just realised I left my glasses on. They're not my glasses. I'm not going blind. My wife makes me wear them. Yeah, we'll do the refitting process after the steering wheel's been refurbished, hopefully looking like new. I'm going to perhaps give this one a good clean and a lick of paint before I put it back on, but we'll cover refitting in the part 2 of the video. So is that it? I think that's about it. I hope this has been of use to someone. I'm sure it has. Don't forget, by the way, if you enjoy these videos, you can click on a bell or something, give us a thumbs up. I've also got a YouTube channel, a Facebook page. No, it's not a Facebook page. Tell me, Mitch, I'm getting old. What is it we got? Patron, if you want to contribute towards the channel, and a forum for those of you that want to chat to other people about your cars, show your car off, get ideas on stuff, share faults that you found, help others with their cars, and they'll help you with theirs. I do use the forum myself, so if you want to get in contact, you can private message me on there. But please, please, please don't ask me about curing faults you've got. I'm not a mechanic. If you post your message on the open forum, you'll have a whole world of people that love these cars and may be able to give you the advice and help that you need. But please contribute yourself. Don't just join the forum, ask a question, get your answer and disappear. It's nice if everyone helps to contribute to the forum and makes it a better world for everyone. Okay, so that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.